called Port Florence. What he did not tell you was that Florence was the wife of the engineer, Mr. Patterson, who eventually killed the man-eaters of Savo. And she was the one who laid the last sleeper at the railway at the port of Kisumu. She was called Florence Patterson. Hence, the town was called Port Florence. Now, I'm going to just make a few remarks about infrastructure that will guide our discussion here this morning at the panel. We recognize infrastructure development as a priority key ingredient for economic development, regional trade, and integration of the continent. Infrastructure is what will make or break the continental free trade area. I was appointed by His Excellency Mr. Mohammed as the African Union High Representative on Infrastructural Development. What are my functions? I act as a catalyst to ensure that the infrastructural projects which have been identified by the African Union are implemented on a timely basis. Already the importance of infrastructure has already been mentioned. I want to say that rightfully, therefore, giving Africa a world-class infrastructure is enshrined in the African Union Agenda 2063. It's projected that by the year 2050, that is about 28 years from now, Africa's population will hit 2 billion people. Well over this, that's 50% of the 2 billion people will be youth below the age of 18, and most of them are going to be living in cities. It's therefore obvious that we are already out of time to have our cities and urban areas connected by road, rail, air, ICT, and waterways. That also means we are not prepared for meaningful industrialization, urbanization, and economic growth that all depend on requisite infrastructure. As you know, in 2018, I accepted this appointment. In the same year, the African countries agreed to establish the African Continental Free Trade Area. According to INECA, the African Free Trade Area will increase the value of inter-African trade by between 15 to 25%. Right now, Africa trades very little with itself. It is estimated that intra-African trade is just about 15%. Inter-European trade is 70%. Inter-Asian trade stands at 50%. Even South America stands at 25%. Why does Africa trade very little with itself? But the major reason is infrastructure. They don't have adequate infrastructure that connects these African countries. As an example, Kenya lies on the East African coast. Next to Kenya, there's a country called Central African Republic. Between Kenya and the Central African Republic, there's only South Sudan. Yet, for Kenya to trade with the Central African Republic, you need to find a ship that will be able to take your goods across the Cape and along the West African coast to Cameroonian port of Douala, and then by road to Bangui in Central African Republic. And the British are much faster there than you. And that's why there in Bangui, they drink Kenyan tea, Christian as English breakfast tea. or French coffee. So what we want to talk about today is what AU is trying to do. And we are dealing here with major infrastructure projects which have been identified under what we call PIDA, Program for Infrastructure Development in Africa. This consists of highways, high-speed railway network, ICT network, that is fiber optic network, the continent, the open air skies, the continent, and the waterways. These are the major projects in the continent. There are several highways that connect different African cities. You have got Dakar to Lagos, Lagos to Mombasa. You've got Cape to Cairo, Tunis to the Cape, through Khartoum to Djibouti. And there are missing links along those highways. There are several others. There are a total of 40 different highways that we're talking about. And then there's a high-speed railway network that connects different parts of the continent. An example I want to give you here is called LAPSET, the Lamu Port, South Sudan, and the Ethiopia Transit Corridor. That, when fully implemented, phase 1 and phase 2, because phase 1 is Lamu Port to Juba in South Sudan, the other one to Addis Ababa. The second one goes through Central African Republic all the way to Cameroon and Port of Kribi, creating a land bridge that connects the Atlantic Ocean to the Indian Ocean and opening up the interior of the continent to wider trade, to Chad, to Niger, to Congo Republic and DRC, to Sudan, and then on to Egypt. There are several others that are planned. In as far as energy is concerned, Africa is energy deficient. Right now, the total installed capacity in the continent of Africa is 145 gigawatts. That is almost equal to South Korea's 130 gigawatts. But South Korea has only got a population of 52 million people. Africa has got 1 billion people, meaning that we are not fully prepared for our modernization, which is going to come whether we like it or not. So we need, therefore, to invest more in energy generation as well. We are planning also to construct 19 new ports on the continent. Also, about 20 new airports, improving the air transport in the continent. Currently, Africa, the air transport in Africa is too expensive. Some of them because of bureaucracies in the continent, structure on the ground. This is another area where we need more investment. So I want to conclude here by saying that Africa has a need for more investment in infrastructure development. There is capacity deficiency. It is estimated by African Development Bank that Africa needs about $170 billion per annum to be able to meet our infrastructure needs. So the deficit stands at about $110 billion. And that's why I have proposed the establishment of African Infrastructure Fund. And we've been working here with several institutions to create this fund. You have established that there are a lot of capital lying idle on the continent, sovereign funds, pension funds, and insurance funds. So we are working towards tapping into these resources so that Africa can be self-sufficient in terms of funding, that Africa does not have to depend and rely on funding from just international financial institutions or bilaterals, some of which proved to be very, very expensive to African countries. So with these many remarks, I'm now happy to now sit down with